This is Shui with a review of the Jordan Jumpman Diamond. These came out as one of the earlier budget models for the Jordan brand, and this was quite popular. A lot of players in the Team USA were donning this shoe, including Kemba Walker and Jason Tatum. There must be a good reason why they were wearing these shoes. At a glance, it looks a little cheap because this diamond pattern that they brag about, which is supposed to help with instability, provide extra stability and some torsion. They are placed on the side, but at the same time, it eliminates the need to have a plate in the middle, which is what I hate. The plate in the midsole, if they're placed right below your foot, it can actually hinder your cushioning. So they got rid of that, so that's great. I wish they would do more of this, but unfortunately, the downside is if it comes all the way up here, it can be a little tight for some people, a little uncomfortable when you're cutting side, moving side to side. And also, if you're restricting this part, there's not enough compression here. So if you're someone who is light on your foot and need to be sprinting forward, you will not feel that propulsion or shock absorption because there is no give here because of this plastic. But if you like something stable, something that stabilizes your heel more so than hard landings, if you tend to run on your toes a lot more or be doing pivot moves in the paint on your foot flat, then this might be the shoe for you. But anyway, that's good. It's a nice little hats off or an homage to the monkey paw lateral anti-lateral inversion system they had in the Nikes in the past. This is a little simpler and probably costs less to produce. The Jumpman Diamond has a zoom air in the forefoot and nothing in the heel, so it's a lot like previous shoes like the Superfly 4, which is garbage. Although you can see the zoom air here, you don't feel anything. At the heel you have nothing, and you really do feel nothing. It's low to the ground, but that's about it. Superfly 3s were pretty good. They were reminiscent of the Jordan 28 and 29s, and the zoom in on the forefoot was unlock zoom, and it did okay. Personally, I'm not a big fan of unlock zoom because you're sitting on a hard plate that sends the pressure and shock to the zoom, and you're not directly feeling the zoom. And it's got nothing at the heel, but the midsole is pretty decent, and they've decoupled at the end and have an impact guidance, so it has a little bit more give and compression for shock absorption. So that's something that the Diamond lacks. For the CPs, if you tried it before, remember the CP8s. It's a little bit similar to that, but CP8s, as you can tell, it had a little bit more flex and give in the heel, even though it was just Lunarlon / Phylon at the heel and a zoom at the forefoot. CPs kept not using zoom at the heel. The CP310 was Chris Paul's personal favorite. He was wearing this for like 2 straight seasons. Even when they had the next model out, he still stuck with this shoe. The midsole is very soft. I don't know if it's Phylon or some type of EVA. CP3s used to have this cushion called the Podulons, but they gave up on that. We've never heard from that brand of cushioning since. It's got an articulated zoom air right at the edge, right on top of the outsole, so you don't feel much after the midsole is obstructing your contact with it. But overall, it was a decent shoe because it had good shock absorption in the heel. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for the Jumpman Diamonds. There's not a lot of compression or cushioning at the heel, but for those who don't really care about that and instead they want extra cushioning, they would rather have extra cushioning on the forefoot, this is the shoe for you. This is personally a lesser version of the Jumpman 2020, which I highly praise along with many other reviewers. The Jumpman 2020 had some really soft midsoles, and it also had an isolated zoom air in the forefoot, and you could feel that. And more importantly, they made a circular groove, and the midsole they used was very soft, so even without zoom, it felt very soft, and it felt like the foam was good enough to do its job and absorb the shock and provide some energy return. The Diamond, it comes in the PF fit or performance fit, so it's very narrow. When you read the word PF at the end of your Nike model, remember it's going to be extra narrow. But what I like about this compared to the Jumpman 2020 is they're both PFs, but this you only have to go up about half the size, as opposed to Jumpman 2020 is I had to go up a whole size and it still felt kind of tight, and it had really crazy room on the toe box. But this one is very low, and it's not crazy narrow. So if you're a narrow footer, you can go through the size. So that's something you should keep in mind. The upper material, it's a type of a cross between an engineered mesh and some type of knit or fabric jacquard type of material, and it's decent. It provides some decent ventilation, and the inner booty is not that super thick, so it's good. Another problem I had with this is these parts. They cut into you. They can cut into you depending on how your foot is, and even if they have some give here to allow room for your Achilles to move about, but because this part is so hard, it shaves into you. So make sure you try this on and see if it ergonomically fits you or not. That's something very important. It's good that it's rigid here to provide some extra ankle stability, but when it's rigid here, that's not good at all. You need something soft around there. So that's a very unfortunate design misconception. The outsole is the best thing about this shoe. Everyone's been praising the outsole for a good reason. It's got a combination of blade traction that forms an arrow or a herringbone pattern, and it's got the nodules that's extra large compared to the ones they had in the Kobe 10s. If you know the Kobe 10s, everybody loved this shoe for its traction, and I still see people donning Kobe 10s in basketball courts. Basketball aficionados have been stocking up in the Kobe 10s after they fell in love with it, and they still have a few pair to spare in their secret stash. So that's the kind of traction it has. The traction is very good, one of the best, and it's not even sensitive to dust even. So you could play it on the dirtiest surfaces. But at the same time, this is XDR. Extra durable rubber usually meant the rubber was a little bit firmer, or it actually had a little bit more resistance to wear and tear. But that's not the case these days. Nike seems to coat the rubber with some kind of film, so initially you can feel that it's been, oiled or it's been varnished or something. So when you wear when you wear XDR rubber Nikes these days, you will feel the traction not exactly all there, and then as you wear them out, the traction improves. Some people actually use sandpaper to file out some of the outer layers, the so-called XDR coating, so that they get the traction they want and they deserve. The price line for this is very low as well. Slightly above or slightly below $100, and they're always going on sale because they came up with very different colors, a number of different colors. And the reason why this is getting a lot of attention these days is because Luka Doncic is wearing this shoe. He signed with the Jordan brand, and initially they needed a face for their main flagship model, the Jordan 34s, but because Zion Williamson hurt himself wearing the Jordan 34s and he is out of commission for now, and Luka Doncic wore the 34s, but he returned to this, interestingly, because he actually wore the Jumpman Diamonds first, and then he hurt his ankle. Usually guys, when they hurt their ankle in a particular shoe, they probably feel a little bit iffy about going back to the same shoe, but that's how much he loves this shoe. So that speaks volumes about who and how the performance or quality of this shoe is validated.